So now we're getting very close to the end. This is the second to last video in our series, Biblical Hebrew for the Novice. And we want to talk about Hebrew commands because they did make commands, right? Of course, we've got the Ten Commandments. So there are definitely commands in the Old Testament. How do you make a Hebrew command? I knew you were asking this question, so I made this video. So you can make a command just using a good old imperative. That's a specific kind of form. In English, it's usually a very brief form, like come, go, eat, and so forth. So Hebrew had a form that was a basic imperative, a basic command. And so when you see like IMP in interlinearbible.org is the code, it's telling you that that word is an imperative. Now, of course, grammatically, we include more than just the kind of harsh pick up your clothes kind of command, because you could also include in here requests. I prithee that thou wouldst, it's not like, for example, bless the Lord, O my soul. Well, that's a command to me, isn't it? But Lord, bless me is not really, you're not commanding God. It sounds like, no, you can't command God. We're talking grammar here. We're not talking in terms of real meaning or significance. But a command or a request, or that this is in this general category, and you could use an imperative form, a special kind of form, in order to do it. Now, this is for the novice. This course is for the novice. You don't have to memorize these forms. You use the code in either interlinearbible.org or blueletterbible.org. The code will tell you that it's an imperative, and oh, this is a command of some kind. There were hints, though, that you don't have to memorize, but you might want to if you have a lot of extra brain space up there. So sometimes you would put a kamatz he at the end of a verb, and that was a hint that you were looking at a command. It wasn't absolutely necessary, but it was one of those things like, I wonder if this is a command. It's called a volative he in grammar speak. You can read this in the chapter that goes along with this video and course, and in the book. Also, you could attach na to the end. I always think of like the stereotypical Southern preacher, and the Lord said da, but this is like go na. Eat na. I'm making it up. I'm totally making it up. But maybe that'll help you remember that sometimes when you see na at the end of a word, you're looking at a command. So this kamatz he at the end and a na at the end after a makef or dash could be, not always, but could be telling you that you're looking at an imperative, which is a command, right? It's imperative that you get that. A negative command is called a prohibition. There are a couple of ways that Hebrew could do that. So Hebrew could use the word for not lo with the imperfect to make a command. So lo tig nov. This is an example of a command. The Ten Commandments. This particular one is thou shalt not steal. It's literally you will not steal. And so we know this in English. You will come at that time is a very strong command, actually, using the future tense. Of course, the imperfect isn't technically a future tense, but it does that kind of a function. And so you will not steal is lo tignov, and it is making a prohibition of a very general sort using a imperfect tense. Now, there was a special form, all, or a special form of the word not, all. You can call me Betty. I'll call you Al. No, it's the other way around. Anyway, that's different. But all means not. And so do not do it is a more kind of, another kind of prohibition. Here is all, not, and ta'ashu is what's called a jussive. But we'll see that on the next page. It's not really the imperfect. But anyway, it often looks the same as an imperfect. So lo with the imperfect or all is like na and kamatz he. It's a big clue that you're looking at something that's an imperative. When you see all, that's a big clue you're looking at an imperative. So imperative prohibitions, this is the main way to make a command in Hebrew. But there's more. For 999, so there was a third-person jussive. This is really something, or a third-person command called the jussive. That's really, it looks a lot like an imperfect. There were a few places where the jussive looked a little bit different than the imperfect. It has a different history in the language if you go back far enough. But the jussive was typically used especially for the third person. If you want to say let him go, let it go, let it snow. If you want to say let him or let her or let them do something, you could make a command, and that we kind of have to use a let in English to translate. You could use this kind of command called adjussive, and it was basically an imperfect form. And it could have that volative hey. This is not hey, not he. It could have that kamatz hey at the end saying, hey, this is a command. So that's the adjussive was a way to make a third person command. Let it snow, let it snow. This is an example of what a adjussive might look like in an actual translation. So again, an imperfect in some contexts could be adjussive. Now, interlinearbible.org doesn't tell you it's adjussive. This is one place where Blue Letter Bible is a little bit more precise than Interlinear Bible, because the code of Blue Letter Bible will tell you it's adjussive, whereas the code of Interlinear Bible just calls it an imperfect. Read the chapter that goes along with this video in the book, and it'll spell it out in greater detail. But in general, the adjussive is a third person command. Let him, let her, let it, let them do something. It could also be used in the second person, to be honest, like we saw on the previous slide. Technically, all with a imperfect looking word probably should be analyzed as adjussive, but these are the finer points. This is for the novice, right? So forget I even said anything. But if Blue Letter Bible tells you it's adjussive, and if you see a translation that is let him, her, or them do something, then you're like, oh, I remember him talking about this, that you could do a command in the third person. It's called a adjussive, I think. Okay, so that's the third person command. You can also do a first person command, which is, it's not really a command, right? You're telling yourself to do something, but let me do this. Let us go to Bethlehem. That's the New Testament. But basically, this is called the cohortative. It may also have a kamatz hey, the volative hey at the end. Let me free, from this video or whatever. So cohortative is a first person command, singular or plural, and it also looks like an imperfect. So it looks like an imperfect just like the adjussive looks like an imperfect. Again, Blue Letter Bible will tell you it's a cohortative. It's a little bit more precise in its code, whereas Interlinear Bible will probably just call it an imperfect. Although actually, I'm trying to remember. Let me refresh my memory. Actually, Interlinear Bible does tell you that it goes imperf.cohort. So Interlinear Bible does tell you when it's a cohortative. So on this one, it was a little bit more precise. But again, the code in Blue Letter Bible will also tell you when it's a cohortative. Well, this has been a video on Hebrew commands, which are done by imperatives, by imperfects, and it's also done with adjussives and cohortatives. And that's it. Again, you don't have to memorize all the forms because we're learning how to use the tools, and the tools will tell us.